Hello and welcome to the beautiful game. My name is Mike Mexicano, and this is a review of the FIFA Club World Cup second semi-final match between match. This one's a mismatch between PSG and Real Madrid. It ended 4-0 for PSG. Like I said, the second one. Prior to this match, when the semi-final pairings became known, we were sure that this one was going to be the most interesting. The other one being, of course, Chelsea up against Fluminense, but we didn't expect it to be as interesting as it was. We didn't expect it to be as one-sided. This one is giving us Champions League final vibes. You know, that PSG Inter Milan kind of thing, where it's an exciting match, but because there's some mismatch and one team overruling or running over the other one, that is exactly what happened as PSG thrashed, decimated, and obliterated Real Madrid in this particular fixture. In fact, if we're taking a look at the stats now, we're going to be taking a look at the stats, and the 4-0 scoreline doesn't even do enough. It doesn't even tell the story. It doesn't tell the story. It could have been far much more worse. Could have been 6 and all of that. I think about Courtois made some very nice saves. But let's just get straight into it. Of course, let's look at how the teams lined up for this match as it started. PSG and, of course, Real Madrid lined up in their traditional 4-3-3 on both ways. But for Real Madrid, it was quite a little bit. It didn't just happen as it went. Okay, well, let's start with PSG. Let's start with PSG and take a look at how the teams lined up for this particular fixture. Of course, it's not a problem. You know their normal line. God, maybe Nuno Mendes, great guy. They line up with their 4 right straight up at the back, which was quite a very cool one. And of course, in that middle 3, you had Vitinha, Ruiz, and Neves quite there. And of course, the front 3, Dembélé making his first start of the Club World Cup. Of course, he had already come in as a substitute in the prior match. But here he was making his first start, and the front 3, Desiree Doué, Ousmane, Dembélé, and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. Wonderful, as it were, as you'd expect from PSG. But this was where it got quite interesting. That's talking about Real Madrid. Of course, on paper, they lined up in a 4-3-3. Valverde, Asensio, Rudiger, Garcia. Of course, Hussein was suspended for this match and so could not start. And so it seemed as though they were a little bit ruffled. Trent Alexander-Arnold had reportedly had an injury in training and so could not start. So he had Valverde, Asensio, Rudiger, and Garcia. And this was where there was a problem in the whole match. But we'll get to all of that. This backline was where there was an issue. And this guy, Tchouaméni, man, something needs to be done about this guy. Arda Güler, Jude Bellingham, and of course the front 3 of Kylian Mbappe, Garcia, and Vinicius Jr. Now, this is the talk here. Garcia had performed well before this match, and so of course he merited his inclusion in the first team, right? But that's the thing: can Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. play well together in the same team? Of course, they lined up like this, but when the match started, Garcia was playing from the right, Vinicius Jr. kept the left, Kylian Mbappe. Garcia moved to the left. Pardon me, he wasn't in the center. Mbappe sometimes moves to the center. On a normal day, it might seem like something that would work out well, but on this particular day, it didn't just all go well for them. And they were decimated, of course, by their back line. This was where the problem is. In the first 10 minutes, Asensio and Rudiger had already made errors and let in Ousmane, Dembélé, and Ruiz to score the first 2 goals for PSG in the first 10 minutes, and it was in no way back for them. You know, there's been that talk. Now, prior to this match, Xabi Alonso in his pre-match press conference mentioned that Tchouaméni is the one that drives his team. I don't understand why he said so. Maybe he was trying to psych Tchouaméni up and give him. But this man has always been, like, I feel like Real Madrid are very weak when it comes to the anchor in the middle, the defensive midfielder, and of course, there are times when Tchouaméni is needed to play even at the back line, the right side of the central defense, and he doesn't do a very good job. And up against this excellent PSG, they stood no chance. Right now, it goes on to say, how good. Well, now the question is this: were PSG excellent or were Real Madrid bad? For me, it was a combination of both. PSG were excellent and Real Madrid was bad. You see the thing, at a particular point during the match, at a particular point during this match, you look at it and you see that even Kvaratskhelia, there was a particular time when he fell back so much. I think it was around this part of the field where he received a ball and took a run up until somewhere around here. That's where he was fouled. the foul wasn't given for PSG, but it just shows you how this team are set up. There is no superstar. They don't think they're superstars. They're high press. See, football now is not about if you high press. It's about how well you high press. It's not about if you high press. They are recovering the ball in 23 seconds, while Real Madrid were taking 45 seconds to recover the ball. So their high press from Doué, Dembélé, and Kvaratskhelia was just amazing. And then when they were with the ball, you see this man here, incoming African Footballer of the Year. He was right in front. He plays in front of Doué. Like a number of times, Doué is with the ball, opens up to give a pass to the right channel, and Hakimi is right in front of him, steady at this point in time. So look, they're going to the point where they knew that they were not going to get any stress from Vinicius Junior and Kylian Mbappe. And that's where I come to Real Madrid when it comes to pressing. Like I said, football these days is not about how if you press or not, it's how well you press, because you have to press. And for Garcia does press, but you see this Vinicius Junior and Kylian Mbappe, that's where the problem, they don't press. Maybe that is that superstar thing. A team maybe can accommodate one superstar, but when it comes to two, there's a problem. And that's where Madrid also had a very major problem. Two guys were not pressing forward, they were not falling back as much as they should. And so it was Hakimi was just having fun. Look at Nuno Mendes. There's a time when Nuno Mendes came into midfield. There was a time when there was a counter from them. Mbappe had one or two very nice chances for going for counter. But the way Mendes was even sweeping is how this guy, kudos to this guy, man. Kudos to this guy. Great guy, I must say. Is how he was sweeping and giving all those finishing moves and all of that. They were excellent. Madrid were bad on the day. Yes, we know. But PSG were excellent. The setup had a problem. Maybe if Rodrigo had started in such a way, and like I said, Mbappe, when he was in PSG, right, he came up against Madrid as at that time, they had just won the Champions League, they had just won La Liga, they were the best team in the world. Now he left PSG. PSG at the moment are by far the best team in the world, and Real Madrid, who were the previous best team in the world, have now become weaker. So the question is this man the problem? No, that's up to you to answer. Just let me know in the comments, yeah? Just let's talk. Is Kylian Mbappe the problem? Because he moved here, and then this team, they look far better without him, and Real Madrid look for worse with Kylian Mbappe in that particular squad. So that was the tale of the tape when it comes to the lineups and how they performed. Something else I want to look at now. Let's take a look at the stats, okay? Let's take a look at the stats at how everything went down, okay? Yeah, let me just get this sorted out. Okay, yeah, good. Let's take a look at the stats here. And of course, from the possession, 63% for PSG, in contest 7%, and of course for Real Madrid 30%. A Real Madrid 30% possession. It seemed as though they were playing kids. At one point, there was no will and no desire from Real Madrid to play football. And you see it all through. Now, there are some stats here that are quite interesting. This is, of course, based on FIFA.com website. And we'll take a look at some stats that are not mainstream, the ones I get to see often, to let you know how things went inside for this game. Look at this one. Yeah, this is what I want to talk about. The final third entries. From the left channel, and of course, this is where Kvaratskhelia would play from for PSG, and then for Real Madrid, this is where Vinicius Junior will play from. So this starts is basically Vinicius Junior, Kvaratskhelia versus Vinicius Junior. And look at Kvaratskhelia. Of course, other players go. I'm just saying that that's the player that has that position. Of course, other people would come in there at different times. You know, so that's left channel, not particularly left winger. So get that clear, left channel. I'm just mentioning the left winger because more of these runs, these entries will be made by the left winger. But we're talking about the left channel. And look at the left channel, 21 to 12, left inside channel. That's when you're cutting in. You understand? We know when those players want to cut in and give a pass or cut in and shoot. 5 as against 5, quite very good. Central channel, central parts of the pitches, they were equal. So it was the wingers that made the difference if you look at the stats. 6-6, right inside channel, 10-6, and right channel 24-12. So that shows you, see, left channel, right channel. It is on these particular 2 points, the left channel and the right channel, that is where devastation was done. So PSG forgot about the central areas. They defeated Real Madrid based on the left and right channels, the wings. That's where it came from, okay? So let's take a look at, are they going forward? Forward, yeah, okay, sorry about that, okay? Yeah, I got this now. And it goes this way, offers to receive. That's talking about receiving the ball. 417 up against 263. In behind, that's talking about how the players line up and how they receive balls in behind them. 81 to 78. In between, 170 to 107, and in front, 166 to 78. Receptions between midfield and defensive. Now that's talking about just that particular second on repeat, the mid-third. Exactly, the mid-third. And 144 to 90, and then behind the defensive line, this is where you are going to cause much more damage, 22 to 12. Line breaks, attempted line breaks. Of course, it was always going to be in favor of PSG. Distribution over double when it comes to passes completed. For passes completed, it was almost triple, right? So it was decimation on all areas. Defending was terrible, I must say, for Real Madrid. Okay, let's take a look at what some of the comments, and I just want to take a look at Xabi Alonso. What Xabi Alonso had to say at the end of the match. Okay, let's zoom in and see how much of it that you can see. And this is Xabi Alonso talking. He said the start of the match had a big impact for us. We wanted a well-managed start, knowing that we're up against a very strong opponent. By the 10th minute, this is the damning indication of how the match went. The game had already become difficult for us. And that's a sign that we still have a lot of work to do. Of course, you have a lot of work to do. Conceding 2 early goals demands a lot more from you. You know you can't lose your balance because they have a very high level. That's a lot to analyze and learn from today's defeat. What more can you say? Luis Enrique says, I feel great. It's always difficult to play this kind of match against Real Madrid. I think we started the game very well. I'm very happy with this performance. We're in a special season, a special moment. I think we deserve to win. We have one more step against a very good team like Chelsea. Now it's time to prepare. We want to make history for our club. Luis Enrique, he did this with the second iteration of the MSN in Barcelona. I was talking about Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. And now he's doing it with a PSG that is not close to the star power that particular team has. Luis Enrique is an excellent coach. At the moment, no one comes close. The best coach in the world at the moment. So we have to give those flowers to Luis Enrique. So yeah, what are your thoughts? Looking at the stats and the lineup and all we said, just drop it in the comments. I'll be here. I'll be listening. Let's have some little interaction and see how it goes. So of course, we'll have another video. We'll talk about the final. It's Chelsea up against PSG. That one, we're going to preview it. That video is going to come up quite very soon, but let me know your thoughts on this particular video. You can drop in the comment section, and yeah, we'll have a chat about it. That's it for this episode of A Beautiful Game. I'll get to see you a little bit later. My name is Mike Mesqueno. See ya.